Good evening, friends. We'll start with today's session. We are discussing regarding the fourth lecture from Kant's philosophy, in which he has included the three aphorisms. He has started with the remaining part of the third, where he explained the importance of importance of the principles, how they are useful, and how you can depend upon them instead of just depending upon the seniority or opinion of others. Then he explained the aphorism 4, and where he explained that one more important quality of the homeopathic physician is that he should likewise be the preserver of health if he knows the things that deranges the health and how to remove them from their state of health. And this aphorism, in fact, is the very important aphorism one should follow in their life. I'm saying life because these are the things which you go on observing many times wherever you are. You can observe the persons taking the tobacco, drinking the alcohol, having some drug addictions, many things, and those things which are responsible to produce a disorder. And these one has to tell others, yes, you have to remove them from the person's head. This is too important. And that's why this aphorism plays very vital role when you deal with the physical disorders which are caused because of such things. And that's why we have discussed the Kant's aspect of looking towards this aphorism in the last part of this lecture. The remaining part of this lecture includes the talk related with the aphorism number 5. So we'll start with that session of the Kant's philosophy, where he starts with the fifth paragraph. So in the fifth paragraph, Hahnemann says, useful to the physician in assisting him to cure are the particulars of the most probable exciting cause of the acute diseases. The probable exciting cause is the inflowing of the cause as an invisible, immaterial substance, which, having fastened upon the interior, flows from the very center to the outermost of the economy, creating additional disorder. These miasms are all require a given time to operate before they can affect the external man. And this time is called as prodromal state. Now he starts explaining about the fifth aphorism. And in the fifth aphorism, when Hahnemann starts explaining about the fifth aphorism, he starts the most important thing or useful thing for the homeopathic physician is to look for the exciting causes, specifically in acute diseases. Question arises, which are exciting causes? The things which excites the disease are called as exciting causes. They might be physical, they might be chemical, they might be biological, many times they might be a psychological also, but basically these are related with the physical things. So anything which is responsible to stimulate a disease process, which directly works on the human mind, human interior, and produce the disease, those are called as exciting diseases, exciting causes, and they are responsible to produce only the exciting states. The original disorder is there in the form of some miasm. These are the things which excites the miasm. These are the things which excites the hidden sora, latent sora, and because of which acute manifestation of the disease comes out. And this is what Hahnemann wants to explain over there, that he starts after explaining knowledge of diseases, indication, he starts with knowledge of diseases from this aphorism. And out of which the first diseases he explains about the acute diseases, where the cause is commonly considered to be exciting many times. There are variety of causes. There are two types of causes. Exciting causes are present, but there are sometimes sporadic disorders are there, which are because of meteoric and telluric experiences. There are sometimes the acute miasms responsible to produce a disorder. So, which produces epidemic and endemic diseases. So, acute diseases, they are of 4 types, out of which first variety, indisposition, which is always caused because of some exciting cause. And this he explains over there, one must know, and if one understands, remove the exciting cause. Many a times, patient can be cured without giving him a medicine. This aspect he wants to highlight over there. Then he explains that if they are the diseases where many a times they are caused because of some acute myasm, at that time, that acute myasm, that might be a bacteria, that might be a virus, that might be a parasite, there are always a prodromal stages. So that cause which entered inside the body until the disease is not yet developed, that period is called as prodromal period. Acute diseases, there is a prodromal period, then period of progress, and there is a period of decline. This is related with any acute disease, any variety of acute disease. There is always a prodromal period, the period of progress, and then period of decline. In chronics, it is not so. In chronics, it is always there is a period of prodromal stage, and then it continues and it remains continuous. That is the period of progress. They never comes down, and that ends with the death of the human being. This is the difference between the acutes and chronic. What he says further, this is true of SORA, syphilis, and psychosis, and of every acute contagious disease known to man. While the influx is upon the innermost of the physical man, it is not apparent, but when it begins to operate upon his nerves and tissues, affecting him in his outermost, then it becomes apparent. Apparent means visible. Each miasm produces upon the human economy its own characteristics, just as every drug produces upon human economy its own characteristics. Hahnemann says that this must be recognized that the homeopathic physician must be familiar enough with the disease cause, with the disease manifestations and drug manifestations to be able to remove them in accordance with the fixed principles fixed and certain. There should be no hypothesis nor opinion. Neither should simple experience have a place. So what he says everyone must know the exactly the every disease. So there are three miasms basically in homeopathy, chronic miasms: the SORA, the psychosis, and syphilis. Everyone knows this cause behind the SORA. We call it as a suppressed itch or suppressed scabies. And it is caused because of the itch mite. The psychosis is caused because of gonorrhea, which is suppressed, which is caused because of Neisseria gonorrhea, again an exciting cause. The third miasm, syphilis, is caused because of the primary syphilis, which develops because of Treponema pallidum, a bacilli. So these are all the exciting causes. When they affect the human being, there is a period of prodrome. They immediately never comes out immediately in the form of eruption. Once they entered in the human economy, affects the internal vital reaction, internal vital force, and the vital force reacts back in the form of signs and symptoms, and then SORA expresses in the form of skin manifestations in the form of itch, scabies, or scabatic eruptions, or vesicular eruptions. The psychosis, the gonorrhea, which is the expression which comes after sometimes when the patient has contact with another person having a gonorrhea. And that's why he grabs the disease, and there is also a period of progress, period of prodrome, and then the period of progress where the symptom starts manifesting. The third disease is syphilis. Same thing happens with the syphilis. There is a period of prodrome followed by period of progress. So Treponema pallidum enters, attacks the human economy. Human reacts against it, again manifested on the skin in the form of and primary syphilis or primary chancre, an ulcer which developed upon the male or female genitalia in the form of single painless hard ulcers associated with bilateral inguinal lymphadenopathy. So all three miasms expresses externally on the skin. Psychosis also expresses in the form of warts. The cauliflower-like warts, basically the venereal warts at the mucocutaneous junctions, specifically on genitals. So all three chronic diseases in their first stage always produces manifestations on the skin. Our remedy never depends upon the cause only, but our remedy depends upon what manifestations patient produces. Depending on those manifestations, you have to find it out simillimum, and that simillimum is based upon law application of law of similars. There is no question of opinion. I feel that I will give sulfur. If you feel, why do you feel? There should be a simple thing. What are the patient's totality? What is the patient's totality? And what is the drug totality? You have to match, and that's all. That is the homeopathy. There is no question of opinion comes. There is no question of seniority comes. There is a question of application of principles comes. And this is what homeopathy is there. So he explains very clearly in this aphorism that you have to once if you are looking towards the acute diseases, you have to look for the exciting causes. For the chronic diseases, specifically when you have to investigate the fundamental cause, that is sora, then you have to look towards certain characteristics of that human being, which defines individuality of that human being, expresses the fundamental. You have to depend upon the manifestations. You have to depend upon the many things, not only manifestations, but many things. So what he further said, if the physician is dealing with the acute cases, he must take into consideration the nature of case as a malady. And so also with the chronic case. It is supposed that he is conversant with the disease from having observed the symptoms of the great many cases and is therefore able to hold before the mind the image of the disease. When he is thoroughly conversant with the very image of the sickness that exists upon the human race, he is then prepared to study materia medica. All the imitations means copy, mimicry, copy. All the imitations of miasms are found in drugs. There is no miasm of human race that does not have its imitation in the drug. The animal kingdom has itself in the image of sickness, and the vegetable and mineral kingdom in like manner. And if man were perfectly conversant with the substances of these three kingdoms, he could treat the whole human race. Now he is explaining what you have to do. When you are dealing with acute or chronic, what is needed is to take a thorough case to understand that human being with all its perspective when you deal with the chronics, just not only the symptomatology, but every aspect. In that aphorism, he has very specifically mentioned how to investigate a fundamental cause. He explains 7 points, and those you have to take into consideration. And same symptomatology or same whatever comes out in patient's totality will be reflected in the homeopathic materia medica in the form of a drug. So you can match the totality and everything is there. Whether remedy might be from animal kingdom, whether it might be from vegetable kingdom, or whether it might be from mineral kingdom. But it works on the basis of that. And this is what one has to understand. Which are 7 points which he has explained. If they are there in this paragraph, it's okay. If those are not mentioned over there, I will going to tell you all those things. I think he has mentioned it in next chapter, the discrimination of as to the maintaining external causes and surgical causes. So he wants to explain further more about the diseases. By the application of the physician must fill his mind with the images that correspond to the sickness of the human race. It is being conversant with the symptomatology, with the symptom image of the disease that makes one physician. That makes a one physician. The books of the present time are defective in that they ignore symptomatology and they do not furnish us as an image of the sickness. There are extensively treatises on the pathology, upon the back, upon the heredity, with a very little of the patient himself. So what is explaining? He's explaining if you want to understand diseases properly, you just look towards symptomatology of the disease. What the patient presents exactly. What are the symptoms with which patient comes out? Those are very important. What symptoms comes out is very important. What pathology comes out is not important. If the patient comes to you with a tumor over here, that tumor is not important for you. What patient is having, what problem the patient is having, that is more important. If you get the symptomatology, it is very clear to come to the right remedy. But if it is not there, then you are confused. Tumor will not differentiate one individual from another individual. And that's why for every case you are dealing with, what is important in symptomatology. And this symptomatology reflects in our materia medica, but this symptomatology never reflects in the diseases. They mentions more about the pathologies over there. And what Hahnemann says and what Kent says, these pathologies never discloses the individuality of the person. It is common. So there might be dysplasia, there might be metaplasia, there might be hypertrophy, there might be atrophy, but that never guides you to individualization. And that's why he says you must understand the symptomatology, what the patient expresses. If we go back to the earlier times when the physician did not know so much about the microscope, when he did not examine into the causes of diseases so minutely, we'll find in such works as Weston's practice much better descriptions of the sicknesses. See, this is the Weston's practice is the book which is written by Weston, where the diseases are expressed in more detailed form, where the symptomatology has a role. Then once microscope started, they started explaining about these physical causes, then microscopic causes, but they never started explaining about the detailed symptomatology which Watson has explained. Watson stands as at the bedsides and relates what his patients looks like, and hence it is a grand old book for the homeopathic physician. There is one in my book, it is besides. It is not besides. Generally, it is bedside. That is the more proper word. Chambers, in his lectures at the St. Mary's Hospital, London, also relates to the with the accuracy, the appearance of the patient. At the present time, the old school physician says, I want to know nothing about your symptoms. Take this and go to the first drugstore and have it filled. This is the state of things at the present time. A look at the tongue, a feel of the pulse, and take this, handling the prescription to the field to be filled at the nearest pharmacy. And this is the method which is followed in old school. They never use time to listen the patient. They are not interested in symptomatology, what the patient is talking. They are interested what they can observe, and that's all. If it is there, it's okay. If it is not there, then three causes are there. Then they look, they go for ask for investigation, nothing comes out. They either label it idiopathic, psychosomatic, or autoimmune. Because nothing visible comes out. And many times nothing visible comes out. This happens every time. And that's why symptomatology is very important for you. If patient comes to you with continuous headache since last 2-3 years and his head is very severely paining, it is from left, it starts from occiput, then it covers the top and then it settles over the left eye, and then left eye becomes absolutely red, swollen, very painful with shooting pains and associated with palpitation. So patient is explaining all this symptomatology, which is very important guide for you. But he goes on investigation, getting that the MRI is normal, everything is normal, because every disease to start with always expresses at the functional level. And because of which the person comes to you in functional level, symptoms, telling the symptoms at functional level. These are very important from homeopathic point of view. But allopath never gives importance to it. So they prescribe some painkillers, they prescribe some tranquilizers, and patient goes on consuming that years together. And later on, after 3 years, 4 years, then the last physician again asks to go for repeat MRI, and then there is some lesion happens to be there in the brain. But if that patient would have come to the homeopath, who takes into consideration all the symptomatology and finds the right remedy as a spigelia for that patient, gives the spigelia, and patient recovers from that, then there would not have been this development of the pathology. This is the importance of homeopathic prescription. When the disease is at the functional level, homeopathy cures it. And this one must understand. And from homeopathic point of view, this symptomatology is important. From allopathic point of view, they never gives importance to the symptomatology. And this comparison he is mentioning over there, they are interested in just giving tranquilizing, just look toward the pulse, just look toward the tongue and say, yes, right, take this medicine. Is that observing the sick? He puts the question. Yala observing म्हणायचं का? Is that observing the sick? Can such a man be the guardian of the sick when it requires time to bring out every little details of the sickness, and a nervous girl is driven off and never permitted to tell her symptoms? So any nervous girl who comes to you and wants to share something with you, and you are not giving time, you don't have a time to listen her. And if you don't have a time to listen her, what is the use of being a physician? What is the need of that lady is not just taking requirement of medicine. It is something with whom she wants to share. Physician is the best person with whom she can share all the details. So listening a symptom is one of the important method which we forgot. And this is what Hahnemann blames and Kent blames, that people are not giving time to the patients. And this is what homeopath can do. Such patients have told me after an hour's conversation and taking of the symptom, the other doctor told me I had hysteria and that there was nothing the matter with me and that I was just nervous. So she comes and she explains that I have seen to the psychiatrist. He explains, he labels you are having hysteria and nothing else. And yes, don't worry, but I am having the complaints, I am having the problem. That is what modern pathology leads men to think and say. And this is what the modern pathology tells, because modern pathology deals only with the visible changes at the cellular level and tissue level. It never expresses the symptomatology. It never gives importance to the patient's symptoms. So what he says, that is what the modern pathology leads men to think and say. Everything is denied that cannot be discovered by the senses. And this is what happens with the modern pathology. Everything is denied that cannot be discovered by the senses. See, this is too important. Hence, this false science has crept upon us until it is typical folly. And this is what happens many times. I am seeing in day-to-day practice that many patient comes with functional complaint. And these functional complaints, if you treat at the same time with a proper time, it definitely works. It definitely prevents the further development or further development of the pathology. So this is what he explains over there. This is what modern pathology leads men to think and say. So this here men means everyone, every physician. Generally, all physicians never give importance to the symptomatology except the homeopathic physician. As to the end of sickness, what sickness will do is of no great matter, because by the symptoms we have perceived the nature of the illness and may safely trust to the remedy. What is explaining? What pathology it will going to form or what pathology it has produced doesn't have meaning. What symptomatology patient expresses is very important, because that symptomatology will guide you to the right remedy. That will guide you with the help of law of similars to a perfect remedy, and with the help of which you can prescribe a right remedy and you can bring that patient out. So totality of the symptoms is the most important guide in finding it out a right remedy for the patient. And this is what he wants to explain, not the pathology. If no remedy be applied to check the progress of the disease, it may localize in the heart, lungs, or kidney. So if you don't treat that patient when he is at the functional level, or if you just go on giving him palliative remedy, that will reflect later in the form of some pathology, either in the heart, either in the kidneys, either in the brain, either in any vital organ, in the form of some pathology. But it takes a long period to develop. It may localize in the heart, lungs, kidneys, but nature of sickness exists in the state of disordered government expressed by signs and symptoms. So whatever may be the disease that expresses, which happens inside at the dynamic level and which expresses in the form of signs and symptoms, and that is the whole guide with which you can understand the patient. So ultimately, you have to give so much of importance to understand the patient's totality of the symptom. Take into consideration each and every detail, detailed by the patient, and match that on the basis of law of similars with the mater medica to get right remedy. You can prevent further progress on the pathology. So this is the right approach which he has explained over there. Some part of this fifth aphorism, which is explained in the next lecture by Kent. So we'll continue with that in the next lecture, so that we'll start with the fourth, directly with the fifth chapter from the Kent's philosophy in tomorrow's session. Till that period, thank you being there, everyone. And second important thing, today evening we'll have a session on remaining part of brush talks. We have discussed one part of brush talks in earlier lecture. Today we're going to learn the remaining part from Alan's keynotes about the brush talks. So the clinical part already we have discussed, but remaining Alan's keynotes with examples and with the clinical examples we're going to discuss at today at 9:30. Be there and ask your friends to join. Thank you being there, everyone.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, I have one query. If we have given one dose of antisoric like sulfur in declining phase of acute disease, and for the same patient, if we want to resume his chronic treatment, how much time period we should wait after dose of sulfur
Why
to give
you
next
why
dose?
you have given sulfur?
Patient was feeling weakness.
No, no. Why question is that why you have selected sulfur?
Sulfur on the basis of that whenever there is a acute disease and when we give any similimum, and after that also if the cure is not completed, then it is written that we should give one dose of antisoric, that is sulfur 30.
Okay. Question is that if it is denoting soric miasm, you give the sulfur. It's well and good. Generally they are soric, but many a times nowadays there might be a tubercular, there might be a psychotic, there might be a syphilitic. During Hahnemannian time, it was well and good to every acute disease followed by a sulfur. It was good. But
Okay.
at today, when we practice today, we have to think what patient is presenting. Many a times that acute manifestation might be because his earlier disease with which he is taking treatment with you is reflected acute illness over there. Then you have to think about prescribing sulfur instead of just giving sulfur that it should be followed with acute. You have to first think whether it is really sulfur, same miasm is there, or whether it is any other miasm is there with which you are treating that patient. If you are treating that with another miasm and now it has reflected in the acute, then whether it is really needed that patient again the old remedy, that you have to think. You just take a totality again, find it out a right remedy, and that remedy will be the further remedy of that patient. It is not always sulfur. It's okay when you are not treating that patient and patient comes to you in acute and then you have given sulfur, it's okay. But if he is already with your treatment, then it should not be a sulfur always. Is it
Okay.
okay?
After yes, sir. After giving a single dose of sulfur 30, the next day patient develop rash over the skin.
Hmm. Then let it
And
adhere. Wait for
it
8 days, 15 days, just it should disappear by its own.
it disappeared within 1 day only, sir.
Then it's good. Don't give any medicine, and don't, there is no further need unless and until person calls for some problem.
But sir, if patient is there with us for the for his chronic problem.
This is what I am explaining. Exactly, this
Okay.
is what I am explaining. If patient is explaining, if patient is explaining some symptomatology over there, then you have to take into consideration that totality and find it out a remedy for that remaining complaints of the patient. For example, a patient of asthma comes and you are treating, then acute disease comes, you have treated with acute with your acute remedy, and then what comes out at the end, that you have to take into consideration to find it out the right remedy.
Okay, sir, I got it. But my question was, after giving dose of sulfur 30, how much time period I should wait to give next minimum?
Varies, you cannot. This is what I am explaining. Till the patient calls for the same remedy. If the patient
Okay.
is calling for the remedy, you have to give. If patient is not
Okay.
calling for the remedy, you wait.
Okay. Okay.
If patient is improved, there is no need.
Okay.
Patient is complaining, yes, you have to give.
Okay, sir. Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Okay, there is
Sir,
one very
sir, sir, in case of acute in convalescent period, sir, can you use carbobase in place of sulfur also if carbobase demands?
what? I could not get.
Sir, in case of convalescent period, sir, in case of acute disease, we can you use sir carbobase in place of sulfur also if patients
Unless and until
demands?
it is indicated, you should not.
Oh, sir, that is patient demands for this carbobase.
What patient
That's
demand?
it. If the patient symptoms the symptom demands for carbobase, sir, in case of
If
patient in
symptoms
convalescence.
are demanding, then you give that remedy. It depends. That is what I am telling you. What the patient demands. What are the complaints of the patient? What is the totality which comes out? That on the basis of that, you have to find it out a remedy. Then
Okay, sir.
there is
Then
one
sir,
more
carbobase
question
can
from Anupam Verma. Sir, in chronic diseases, LM potency, how many times and days it can be repeated one potency? It depends upon situation. You can repeat for months, you can repeat for 15 days. It depends. If you feel that it has been given in Organon, we have discussed all those things. Once you start getting a next symptomatology and it is no more working, if you find you have started with LM1 and you have started giving LM1 and it has produced certain, it has cleared certain aspects, and then further patient comes to you and patient starts explaining that these symptoms are not going, then you increase the potency, then it is the time that you have to go for 2, then you have to go for 3. It depends how the patient demands. Mayur, I could not get your question. What is your view on tubercular miasm? Tubercular miasm is a sorosyphilitic miasm. So present era is more of a tubercular miasm. Present generation is more of a tubercular miasm. Anything else? Miasms, if you want to learn, they are already there, discussed in detail in basically in the first aphorism of which I have discussed earlier. I have explained whole miasms over there. So go through that so you will get clear idea. So we'll conclude the meeting. That's all. Thank you very much being there. We'll meet at night 9:30. Thank you.